So far away Lucas and lovely audience at home, welcome to a very special episode of Wiki Weekends, the series where I, your host for this episode, Karl, Smallwood, scour the lengths and breadths of the internet to find a wiki on a subject I'm interested in, bring it forward for discussion and see what kind of conversation arises as a result. And today, Lucas, is a very special episode, as I mentioned, because the topic of today's video was decided upon by our audience.
It was indeed, yes. It was done by a poll on our Patreon.
Well, I was about to say, would you like to explain how people at home can contribute to the channel by suggesting topics for us to talk about?
Well, yeah, over on our Patreon we do a monthly vote, and anyone at the $5 tier or above can contribute to the votes that we put out every single month and just decide on a topic that we do. So basically, 1 in 4 of our topics every single month is decided by all of the audience.
Yes, and the topic our audience chose for this month is Monster Hunter. And our topic today is gaming related, and I gave our audience one of 4 choices to pick from. They were a game I've never finished, a game I've finished multiple times, a game I am ashamed to have never played, and a game that I will never play. And what was the option our audience picked, Lucas?
I think you should just put in a clip of the shame.
Yeah, it is.
I heard that you kept the bell from shame.
Yes.
Shame. That's kind of messed up.
Well, that's when you know that your character's really dead.
So, Karl, you've never played a Monster Hunter game before?
I've played many Monster Hunter games, but I've never played the original Monster Hunter. And I should clarify that I'm using the phrase ashamed to have never played in a hyperbolic sense, right? I'm not actually super mad, ashamed or embarrassed that I haven't played the first Monster Hunter game. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it on the internet to an audience of hundreds, if not thousands of people. It's just, we're gamers, Lucas, right? We play games.
Yeah, and I presume what you're going to allude to is the fact that, usually when you get into a series, you go back and see where the series began.
Yes, and if you don't do that, there is a small but very vocal subset of fans of the thing that you are getting into that will be annoyed that you haven't gone all the way back to the beginning and played the series from the start. But my own personal journey with Monster Hunter started with this thing right here. Lucas, can you tell me what that is?
That looks like a default standard PSP, if I'm not correct.
Yep, this is a Sony PlayStation Portable that I bought from my friend for about 50 quid many years ago, because they bought it for themselves and went, oh, it sucks. All the games on it are terrible. And the game that they handed to me when I got this console was Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. So that's where my Monster Hunter journey began, with this game.
And they are coming, whether you're ready or not. Together as one is the only way.
Which I know is a remake of Monster Hunter 2, I think, which itself is a sequel to Monster Hunter 1, but the Unite versions of the games were expanded versions that themselves were based on Monster Hunter with the G-Rank quests. I'm not sure exactly how the series progresses because it's quite convoluted, but for anyone out there wondering, yeah, this is where my Monster Hunter journey started, with this game, and I played pretty much every game subsequent to this one.
Yeah, and a lot of PSP was kind of seen as inferior in the sense of this is just a worse version of a PS2 game, but a lot of people, especially in Japan, where Monster Hunter got, initially very popular, because it's from there, it was a lot more popular on PlayStation Portable, if I'm not wrong, because the game was kind of conceived in a way where it's these short missions that work really well on a portable system. And
many fans of the series, myself included, think that the portable versions are the definitive versions of the game, because, as you mentioned, it's the whole point is to team up with other hunters and go hunt some monsters, and a portable system allows you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
With over 8 million sales worldwide, Monster Hunter is an enormous franchise. One of the greatest things about Monster Hunter is the ability to meet up with your friends and play socially. Have a listen to what these guys have to say.
みんなと楽しくワイワイできるところが魅力だと思います。協力する魅力じゃないですか。やっぱりみんなで助け合って一緒に一つの目的を達成する喜びが。
And just one more time to clarify, I do consider myself to be a fan of this series, and there is no question in my mind that the vast majority of Monster Hunter fans, my fellow hunters out there, do not consider not having played the first game to be a disqualifier to consider yourself to be a fan. But there is no doubt a very small, but as mentioned, vocal subset of people who play games or make gaming a significant part of their personality to the point where they're obnoxious about it. They would get annoyed about the fact I haven't played the first Monster Hunter game.
I'm sure there will be people out there that, you know, with any series would not consider someone like a true fan unless they played every game in the series, blah, blah, blah. But it's like most English-speaking people, especially like the people who are watching this video, the game only really got popular, or the game series only really got popular with Monster Hunter Worlds.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say one of the PSP versions. That's the thing, I'm pretty old school in terms of like Western Monster Hunter fan, because like I was playing on the PSP. It's Worlds that like, you know, did gangbusters and actually introduced the series to a vast swathes of people, which as a fan of the series for well over a decade, I was like, oh, that's awesome, more people playing Monster Hunter. Why would I not want more people to play the game series that I love? And before we get onto the wiki proper, Lucas, the prompt for today's video is a game I'm ashamed to have never played. And is there a game that applies to for you?
Well, I've got 1.5 answers for you, Karl.
Okay, tell us the half one first.
I was going to, don't worry. My first half answer is that I have played, but I've never actually finished the original Legend of Zelda or Zelda 2, which, as a massive Legend of Zelda fan who is literally going through the catalogue of the series on my Twitch for years, like, we haven't got round to the original 2 yet, and just, I have dabbled in them, but I would not say that I've, like, fully, properly played them.
But you still consider yourself to be a fan of the Legend of Zelda series, yes?
Massively, yes. It's my favourite series of games alongside Pokemon.
And that's why I thought this would be interesting, of like, Monster Hunter is a series that I'm a huge fan of, but I've never played the original. And I'm going to clarify it one more time, for the third time in this video, because whenever you say stuff like this online, someone always assumes that the generalisation you're making applies to them. I'm aware that the people who'd be annoyed about it are in a minority of the audience and fan base of this game. It's that minority is very fucking loud. And anyone out there who's got an interest that they have explored or interacted with the community of online is keenly aware this guy exists and he's very annoying.
Yeah, totally. There are definitely gatekeepers out there, and generally speaking, the more niche a thing, the more gatekeepy certain people get over it.
Yeah, well, it's like anime's a popular one, right? Anyone who's gotten into anime and tried to dip their toes into like discussing it with other people has no doubt encountered the gatekeepy asshole who will just create arbitrary reasons why you are not a real fan. Dragon Ball Z. For example, a gatekeepy asshole might tell you are watching the wrong anime. If you happen to be watching the right anime, then they might say you are watching it in the wrong format. If you are watching it in the right format, you might be watching it in the wrong dub. If you are not, likewise, they might say, no, the dub is not the proper version, it is the subbed version. But then which sub version are you watching? And all it really does is give that person an excuse to feel superior to another human being because they watch anime. Because ultimately people who do that don't really have much of a personality to call their own. So they will do whatever they can to hold on to that small amount of unearned superiority over another person. And we don't like that on this channel. We're obviously engaging with it a little bit in a joking way, but I'm a Monster Hunter fan. If someone out there has played one game in this series and says, I like Monster Hunter, you are also a Monster Hunter fan. I'm not going to judge you for any of that, but we've all met that guy, right?
Well, we were kind of, at least to a portion of our audience, kind of that when we recently did a video on Squid Game Season 2, and we were kind of joking about how bad the dub was for that specific thing, and like, you know, made a joke about subtitle watchers and stuff, and it like, or people not watching subtitles, I should say, and it maybe to some people in the comments came across as us saying, like, you shouldn't watch it that way, and it was just, no, we were kind of more trying to make fun of, like, the very specifically bad dub for the first season of that show, and it just clearly, to some people, came across as like, you know, in the wrong tone.
And myself and Lucas would never want to gatekeep any of our interests because, hey, more people liking the things that we like means that we can make more videos on them and hopefully make more money as a result. Like, we literally benefit from more people liking the things that we like. In a monetary sense.
We literally do. We literally do benefit specifically in like a monetary way, in like a channel growth way, but like we also just want to like share cool things with people.
Yeah.
That's the aim.
One of the stated goals of his channel is to, you know, have a conversation about things that we like in each episode, and if one of the things that we like is very popular, then it means that more people are going to watch the video.
And going all the way back round to things we enjoy, the true answer of games that I'm ashamed to have never played, Karl,
is
it comes from another series of games I have dabbled in, but I've played Fire Emblem, but apparently I've not played the right Fire Emblems, because the two most popular in the modern franchise are Awakening and Three Houses, and those are two of the Fire Emblem games I have never touched.
But in a way, though, that's actually kind of awesome for you, right? Because you consider yourself to be a fan of that series. You played what fans consider to be lesser titles in the series, which means that there are better games in that series just waiting for you to play whenever you get around to it, which is awesome, right?
Yeah, it's really cool, and I decided recently out of the Switch games to pick up Engage because I'm more excited about the battle and the strategy side of the Fire Emblem, you know, mechanics, whereas it seems like Fire Emblem Three Houses is a lot more like narrative and character driven, and I'm excited to play that game, but out of the two at the time I was just like, well, I'll pick up Engage. I'm more enticed by those mechanics.
There we go, and maybe we'll talk about that another day. But first, Lucas, we've got to talk about Monster Hunter, because we're like quite a bit into this video, and I wanted to get through all of my like caveats first, because I'm very, very much a fan of this series, and I don't want to piss off anyone else who's a fan. That's why I wanted to do the caveat 3 times of, we are not specifically talking about anybody out there. We are making generalizations, and we hope those generalizations don't apply to the people watching this video, because if they did, that means you're one of the weird gatekeepy assholes we're making fun of, and that's not a nice way to be.
It's not. Be cool. But, like, it's funny, because most of the time you go back and play a game, either the first game or an early game in the franchise, it's like, man, things used to be so much simpler. And, like, that is not the case for Monster Hunter.
It's not, no, because even I said Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, the version that I played, is like based on Monster Hunter 2. It's like, it's a convoluted mess. The Monster Hunter games have actually gotten simpler and more streamlined as time has gone on, to their benefit, in my opinion. But I digress. Monster Hunter is an action role-playing video game developed and published by Capcom for the PlayStation 2. It is the first installment in the Monster Hunter series and was released in Japan in March of 2004 and in North America in September of that same year. It was remade and expanded into Monster Hunter G, which was released in Japan for the PlayStation 2, later ported to the Wii, and was brought to North America and Europe as Monster Hunter Freedom for the PlayStation Portable. And this is Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, which is like based on Monster Hunter 2. I believe, anyway. I think it's still in here, actually. Yeah, it's still in. Oh, Lucas, do you remember? Do you remember the fucking Universal Media discs? That shit was good, right? Of course I do,
because they play on every single thing now, right?
Do you also miss, like, these? Do you miss, like, booklets that tell you, like, facts about the game? Look at that!
Because that was my shit to read on the bus getting home from buying the game. Like, I have nothing nowadays.
Isn't that awesome? I love, like, stuff like that. And also just because I thought it'd be funny. When I was, like, digging through my PSP games to find, like, this one to show off that. This is the first one I played, and I still own it because, obviously, I want to keep a living catalogue of all the stuff that I played when I was a kid. Like, I sold a bunch of the stuff that I played as a kid to, you know, eat food. Over the past couple of years, I've been trying to buy it all back, but this is the actual original copy that I played as a kid. And it even has the memory card. Remember the memory cards for the PSP? That's my Monster Hunter save right on there.
I actually never had a PSP. It was one of the few consoles I never got, so I didn't remember what the memory cards were like. I remember the Vita obviously had like the proprietary Sony ones that you could only get like for massively over budget, but
the PSP was different, where it had a proprietary like little memory card thing that you could put in, but there were third-party ones where you could just put a micro SD card into it. So I've got like, I think that's what's in there right now. I think it is, the third-party thing I bought, which lets me put in like micro SDs. So it has like just a 128 gig micro SD in there, which
just
I think
like
is
a
all
little
like,
adapter that'll let it work. Yeah.
You can't do that for the PSP. That's a conversation for another day. But the other game I wanted to show off, just because I can't believe I bought this. I paid money for this now. It's like, I'm so mad. It is Marvel Nemesis Rise of the Imperfects. Do you remember Marvel Nemesis Rise of the Imperfects, Lucas?
I don't even remember that existed.
It's a 3D action brawler where you play as Marvel characters, and it has... The gimmick is that there's the Imperfects, which are OCs they made up for this game.
Oh, it's one of them ones.
It's one of those ones, yeah. Do you know what? That's a topic. Do you know what? That's a game I'm not ashamed. That's a game I'm ashamed that I have played, because that game fucking sucks. Much of the game can be played offline through single player. The majority of the content is in the online section of the game, and this is why I don't think I could ever go back to Monster Hunter, like the very first one, because each subsequent game in the Monster Hunter series has added improvements, and those improvements sometimes are just more monsters, which is the primary draw of the game. But one of the things that the Monster Hunter series did as it went along is offer more content for solo hunters. And I generally, when I play Monster Hunter, I like to play it on my own. It's one of my go-to relax games. Because when I play Monster Hunter as a solo hunter. It's one of my games I use to relax. I like playing on my own. I'm more than happy to go and play with other people or help other hunters hunt problem monsters, but for me the challenge is just going into the wild and hunting a giant monster on my own. And something that the series has gotten better with over the years is adding more content for people who choose to play that way, because only some monsters are found in the single player, and the player's rewards are smaller and less valuable when they are offline.
Right.
Keep in mind, this was a PS2 game.
Yeah. This must have been one of the earliest PS2 games to really utilise the online functionality for something substantial.
Yep. And that's the thing, right? If I went back to play this game on the PS2, not only is it going to be more difficult because there's not as many systems in place and it's going to be a lot more obtuse, you literally can't enjoy the full scope of what's on offer because you can no longer play it online.
Yeah, and it's that weird thing, right, of if they didn't release a disc that's the modern equivalent would be a deluxe edition, right, or a Game of the Year edition or whatever they call it. But they didn't tend to do that a lot of the time. You might find that, the PSP version has all the content on it with Freedom Unite or whatever it was called,
yeah, it's what
the
the
original one.
It was the G rank, I think, and there's more monsters, there's more single player content in there, which I appreciate because I like playing Monster Hunter on my own. I find it relaxing. I'm a really weird player of Monster Hunter, and I'm keenly aware of this, where I go in there super simple. My loadout when I go into the world of Monster Hunter is I take 10 potions, 10 mega potions, and that's it. That's all I travel with. And anything that I will need to help with hunting the monster, I will procure on site like solid fucking snake, or I'll struggle through.
What's your general meta main weapon? Just
I use them all. And that's the thing, is I know that's another thing where real hunters commit to one weapon and one weapon alone. So I don't want to do that because I didn't pay for the game to not play 15 of the 16 weapons that are in it. It'd be like playing a fighting game and only playing one character, which I know people do, But when I get a fighting game, I want to learn the whole cast. One, because I paid for the game. I'm not paying for a game not to press every button that I can. But also, I'd like to see the full extent of what's on offer, because maybe I'll find something that I do like. So generally, I'll have a build for every single weapon, though I tend to gravitate towards the more defensive-orientated weapons, just because I like the idea of, I am the wall. Right? There's nothing more hype than just like, oh, this monster's going to use like the universe obliterating one-hit kill attack. Done.
I like that. I like the idea of just keeping it mixed up with your weapons. But anyone who doubts like how deep Karl gets into these games, I remember when Monster Hunter Rise came out, and I was looking at the reviews and stuff, and go, "Oh, that seems pretty cool. That seems fun." And like, it must have been maybe a week and a half after the game came, and I was like, "Oh yeah, didn't that Monster Hunter Rise come out, Karl? Like, maybe I could pick it up and we could go through it co-op. I'll beat it."
Well, that's the thing. You've never truly beaten Monster Hunter. I beat the main story, but you never beat Monster Hunter. It's one of the reasons why it's my go-to just game to play. There's always more to do. There's always, even if you've got every weapon in the game, which is it's next to impossible to actually unlock everything. If you went into Monster Hunter and you had got every weapon at the max rank and hunted every monster and had every suit of armor done, you've still not completed Monster Hunter, because you can always learn more. There's always more to learn and do.
That is true. However, I believe at the time what you had said to me is like, I have done every single post-game mission. Like, because Rise was a little bit lax on content at initial launch, right? Like,
yes.
They updated it a lot afterwards, and you were just like, I've done it all.
But I knew there'd be more to do.
But there's always more, like, gear and armor to grind for and stuff. But, like, in terms of just, have you done every single post-game mission? Yeah, I think you'd done it at that point.
Yeah, I've hunted every mission.
That's the last of them. Tonight, we celebrate.
With a hunt?
Yes. For tomorrow, we hunt.
Now, Lucas, you are more of a casual fan of the Monster Hunter series, so what's your familiarity with it? Do you have, like, a favourite monster, or is there a monster that sticks out in your mind? Because for a lot of fans, it is the Rathalos. And I'm going to say something controversial here. I don't like the Rathalos. As mentioned, I go into my missions with just healing items, and that's it. Unless I specifically need, like, something for the mission, like I need, like, cold resistance or heat resistance. Other than that, it's just healing items and maybe some, like, some rations for stamina recovery. And as a result, enemies that fly, I don't like fighting them, because then I have to go around the map making sonic bombs. You know, it's like, why don't you just take sonic bombs into the mission? The answer is, well, then I might run out of resources to make sonic bombs, and I might need them for a later mission. Because Monster Hunter really scratches that itch. Do you like the never using elixirs in Final Fantasy, because you might need it for later?
Or hero there as well.
Just in case.
We've got 100 mega elixir.
Yeah. Well, we need them. Because Monster Hunter technically never has an endpoint, it really, really, really plays into that. I'm like, well, I don't want to use my sonic bombs, because maybe I'll really, really, really need them for, like, a super high level quest. And then and I'll end up, like, 100 hours in, I'm like, okay, I've got, like, 40,000 resources, but it's not enough.
Fair.
So, yeah, is there a monster that you, like, sticks out in your mind? Because I'm not the biggest fan of the Rathalos, so I don't like how it flies. For me, my favourite monster is the Tigrex, because I think it's the best monster to just get used to the mechanics. And whenever I'm learning a new weapon or, like, testing a loadout, I'll always just go beast on a Tigrex.
When the ancient tyrant hunts, all are filled with dread.
Rathalos has kind of, for the longest time, been the box art monster on a lot of them, and kind of the mascot almost for Monster Hunter.
It's not on this one. The one on this one, I'm going to forget the name of this one now. It's I'm really bad at remembering the names of the monsters, because I just call them, like, by their nicknames. I think that's, like, the weird, like, stealth, like, withen one, off the top of my head.
Its name probably isn't the weird stealth withen one.
Death comes swiftly, in elegant and gracious form, never witnessed by its prey.
like, you know, I'm aware more of Rathalos because it was a boss fight put into Smash Bros. Like, I enjoy the idea of Monster Hunter, but I think I'm the person where, like, I've not got into it before because I haven't had that group of friends to get into it with.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a very difficult game to get into. And as mentioned, I was already deep in, and I prefer to play it alone. Which I know is very strange. It's like, it's literally, like, the front of the box is 4 fucking people stood fighting a monster. I'm aware that that's not the way the game is, quote-unquote, supposed to be played, but keep in mind, I had a PSP, no internet connection, and I didn't know what Monster Hunter was when I first got this game. So I struggled fucking through until I mastered that shit.
Fair. And I will say that, like, in terms of bosses that I like, you know, the very early boss that I just enjoyed the armor set was, like, shout out to the Pookie.
Oh, the Pookie is really fun. And that's the other thing as well. My love of certain bosses is based on the armor that they make. For that reason as well, I really like the 2 giant crabs. I like the 2 crabs because I've always liked their equipment and their armor.
And I was watching some Monster Hunter Rise reviews today, because we're recording on the day that the review embargo lifted for Monster Hunter Rise. Not Rise, sorry, Wilds.
Yes.
The newest one. And I don't know if it's a new boss or not, but I've never seen it, and it looked rad as fuck. And it was like a giant flower spider.
It probably is from... That's the thing as well. I don't know the names of the monsters. I just give them nicknames. So for me, it's a giant crab. Giant enemy crab. I'm going to go... here's the thing, Luke. I don't even know what his name is. I know I'm going to go kill it. I'm going to kick his fucking ass.
A giant spider with, like, a flower blooming on its backside, and that looks like it's going to have absolutely amazing armor set.
Yeah, and that's the thing about, like, the newer games where they really, really play into, like, how cool some of that armor looks.
Yeah, so I just did a quick Google, and it does look like Monster Hunter Wilds is adding a terrifying new spider monster, according to thegamer.com.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Oh, sorry, go on.
And I imagine that's one that you're going to feel very, mixed feelings about going to hunt, because you'll probably want to obliterate all spiders from this earth, but don't want to fight a giant spider, right?
That's the thing. I am scared of spiders, but I'm not so scared of spiders where they bother me in video games. I'm able to, like, make that disconnect in my mind. I know for some people, like, their arachnophobia is extreme enough where even a digital spider is enough to scare them. Fortunately, my arachnophobia is not that bad, so a giant spider monster in a video game doesn't bother me all that much. In fact, I think they look cool. That's the thing. I don't like that I'm scared of spiders, because I actually think spiders are really cool. Like, creepy crawlies and bugs and stuff are cool. Objectively, they're awesome. But I just don't want them anywhere fucking near me. And that's the thing as well. Specifically, it's spiders. And it's not even all spiders, it's specific spiders. For example, tarantulas, I'm kind of okay with tarantulas. One, because they're furry. So I can kind of, like, it's almost like an animal. They're slow. And the way they move is like they're, like, kind of all crunched up a little bit. The spiders that I don't like, where the legs are real fucking long. Huntsman.
Oh, like, I was going to say, like, the giant huntsmans and shit.
Like the huntsman spiders and the, what are they now? The bird-eating spiders. The ones that have, like, real weird long fucking legs. I don't like those, but tarantulas with the big fat bodies on the back, like money spiders, they've got like that size of your thumb. I'm okay with them for some reason.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and just, like, the one time that I think I've just been freaked out by a spider-looking thing was the hand spiders from Elden Ring.
They're not even spiders, they're just fucking weird, right?
They're just giant hands, but they kind of move like spiders because they've got extra fingers on them and shit, and it's like, oh. It's
not great, and that's the thing, is I am scared of spiders, but I'm okay with spiders in movies and in games. That's the even like movies with real spiders in them don't bother me that much. Because just I'm able to, like, just in my head say what is not near me, so I'm fine. But
Fair enough. That's a good.
But that
good
doesn't
way
apply
to
to water, because I'm also scared of open water. And when I see open water in movies, that does freak me out, but not in video games. Because in a video game, I'm aware of the fact that there's an invisible boundary which the game's not going to let me pass. But in a movie, it's like, well, that's a real ocean. Even if like it's CGI, it's like, I don't know what it is. Fear is very strange. It's very specific to the individual. That's one of mine.
Yeah, it's like I'm not the best with horror in general, but I am better with horror games than I am with horror movies, even though I'm not the best with horror games either. But like, I know other people that are the other way around, where like for me, having a sense of control gives me a bit more courage to be able to go through the horror, whereas for some people it's the control that scares them.
Yeah, because they know that they have to keep going forward, whereas with a movie they can cool their eyes. And again, that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, folks at home, is a type of thing that you're scared of, like you don't like encountering in video games? I know spiders are a very popular one, but there's also people don't like the dark, people don't like noises, people don't like just video games are great for stuff like that, right? They let you experience the world in a vicarious way, which some people like, some people don't.
And spiders and arachnophobia is the only thing I'm aware of that a video game has put in a slider for to get rid of it, like having like an arachnophobia mode in a game. Like that's becoming more and more common, but I'm not aware of other fears. Like I'm really scared of like wasps and bees because of some bad encounters when I was a kid, and just like I've never seen a game have any kind of, I don't like wasps mode and make them giant blobs.
Yeah, similar to like clowns, right? People really don't like clowns.
Are you getting a clown for today?
Oh no, Luke's not much of a clown fan.
Really?
Yeah, I never liked him.
Has he ever seen a good one?
Has anyone? Really? So anyway, thanks again.
And I'd argue that if you're scared of clowns, that's going to be... I'd be way more freaked out by a clown in a video game, because chances are a clown in a video game is there to kill you, right?
Yeah.
There's not many video games where the clown's in it and he's not going to kill you. Whereas in like games with spiders, sometimes they're just there ambiently, just doing their thing.
Or they're becoming sexy Shelob.
Yeah. That's the thing as well. That's why I'm not scared of them in video games. They might turn into like stupid, sexy Shelob. But Lucas, we've already talked about that. So let's get back to Monster Hunter now. So gameplay. Do you need to know about the gameplay of Monster Hunter? You pick your weapon, you go kill some monsters.
Yeah, you go on hunts.
You go on hunts, and there's never any end to the amount of hunts that you can go on. And initially, in earlier Monster Hunter games, you chose to be either a Blade Master or a Gunner, and hopefully people can surmise what those two play styles revolve around. But later games in the series have kind of done away with the idea that you specifically have to fight the monsters in a specific way if you pick to fight with a certain weapon. And there's a lot of build variety you can have in Monster Hunter, which is one of the reasons why I think it's so replayable. It's why one of the games that I keep going back to, because you can go back and say, okay, this time I'm going to make a lance build that revolves around counter hits, or I'm going to make like an aggressive defensive like moveset. I'm going to take a defensive weapon and make it very aggressive. Or you can, for example, go in with like a light bow gun or a heavy bow gun or a bow and exclusively fight from that far away from the monster's face. And there's ammo types you can get that do more damage at point blank range. So you can go in as a gunner and just your whole game plan is standing 4 foot in front of the monster's face, constantly shooting it with shotgun shells. Ultimately, you can snipe it from very far away.
And as far as I'm aware, in the newer Monster Hunters, you're also not limited by anything other than like the equipment you own, right? You can go and try out any single weapon at any single point.
Absolutely, yeah. There's no stat system. You can pick any. If you start the game and you go through the entire game playing with a great sword, at any point you can say, "Well, playing with a great sword. I want to go get a gun." And as long as you've got the materials to make the gun, you can use the gun, and your Monster Hunter will be exactly as proficient with that weapon, and their only real limitation is your own skill with it. And that's one thing that's great, because just at any time you can completely shift up and alter your gameplay style.
Which is how it should be, and I'm very much glad that like newer games in the series have skewed more towards like those kind of styles of systems of like anyone can hop in with any weapon style, and people can jump in at lower levels of experience and try out plenty of new things. And just the fact that it's a lot more user-friendly now is like, the reason why it's becoming even more popular now.
Yes, and I will say that at the absolute highest level, you do kind of get railroaded into certain builds, but that's only if you are min-maxing the fuck out of it. But, like, you know, I have played the game up to, like, the absolute, at least Rise. I've got Rise in front of me as well, like the latest game in the series that I've played. So I have gone to the absolute highest level of challenges in that, and I never play with a meta build, unless I absolutely have to help out other people.
Yeah,
you can still
sure,
go in.
Like if you're going in and doing some carries or something, right?
Your DPS might not be as high as it could be, but as long as you've got the right level of equipment, you're gonna do fine. Especially in like Rise, you are so fucking powerful in Rise. Siltbind attacks are so fucking strong.
This is for my fellow hunter.
Yeah, and it definitely seems to, like, you know, be catering more towards that demographic with each release. Like, same with Monster Hunter Wilds, as far as I can tell, and like maybe to the chagrin of the people who started out with like the original Monster Hunter, I guess. Like,
Lucas, as someone who played the PSP version, I can never go back. I can't even go back to Worlds because Worlds is so fucking slow. I compare it. It's like going from Metal Gear Solid 3 back to Metal Gear Solid 2. You can't give a player that much fidelity and control over Snake and then send them back.
Yeah,
it's impossible to go back after you can't have the CQC system in 3 and go back to 2. It just doesn't feel right. It's like I don't think I could go back to play even World, which is really, really good, and I had a lot of fun with and played hundreds of hours of, because the Siltbind attacks and the movement that you're afforded is so good. To go back and not have access to that move set and that movement would make me feel like I'm, like, you know, controlling a shopping trolley again.
Yeah, exactly. It might be people obviously have played other Metal Gears and gone back to 2 and 1 and enjoy that experience, but just, you know, for some people, that's just like a really tough ask, right? Like, I'm similar. Of the moment you give me better and more nuanced control over my character, I don't want to go back to a world where that doesn't exist.
But I am keenly aware at the same time that the deliberateness of that system is what people fell in love with. And it's what drew me to the series, the fact that mistakes are heavily punished. Like, for example, using the Greatsword. To absolutely maximise the damage of the Greatsword, you have to master the art of getting the true charge slash, which requires you to hit the enemy 3 times while standing stock still. That requires a lot of patience and a lot of knowledge of the game, its systems, and the monsters that you're fighting. And it's very satisfying when you land a perfectly timed, like, true charge slash right on the monster it's about to charge at you. But at the same time, it being so punishing makes it not as welcoming to newcomers. And the addition of all the new skills actually raises the skill ceiling. So even though it's a lot easier for newcomers, and newcomers have an easier time of getting the damage, to get the really, 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 really good damage and to, like, you know, get your DPS as high as possible and to, like, really get those good ties on those monsters, or to just maximise, like, you know, the amount of shit you're getting from them by cutting off their tails or breaking like snouts and stuff like that, you still have to have that knowledge you needed previously. It's just that there's now more things to keep in mind, which for me is more of a challenge, which means there's more replayability. But I do understand why people like the simpler way it used to be.
And for those more old school Monster Hunter fans that are maybe a bit upset that things have become, like, more welcoming and streamlined over the years, at least they're sticking to, like, what the core of the franchise is, whereas somebody like myself who is a fan of another longer running series, just Final Fantasy for me has gotten to the point where, like, it is no longer Final Fantasy in any way, shape or form.
The elements of the series that you enjoyed are no longer present, like the 4 people stood in a line kicking the fuck out of enemies, like, system, right?
And, like, the 7 remake trilogy aside, like, those are clearly, you know, trying to invoke older games, but the actual mainline, like 15 and 60, just are nothing of what I liked of the series anymore.
Whereas Monster Hunter has always remained true to, like, the core tenets of the Monster Hunter series, which is just hunting some fucking monsters, kicking the shit out of some monsters, and then turning them into a nice hat. And you know what, Lucas? We do have a sequel on sequels here, because my knowledge of the Monster Hunter series is a little limited just based on the fact that there's a lot of Monster Hunter games. So, Monster Hunter was followed by Monster Hunter 2, released in Japan on February 16th, 2006. This was followed by Monster Hunter Freedom 2, which is based on Monster Hunter 2, which was released worldwide throughout 2007. Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, the one that I have, is another expansion to the PSP Monster Hunter game. So this is the third game in the series, technically, I suppose. This was followed by Monster Hunter Tri, which was originally announced to the PlayStation 3, but which was switched to the Wii. It features new mission modes, as well as new monsters and items. This was followed itself by Monster Hunter 4 for the Nintendo 3DS in Japan. And that was itself followed by Monster Hunter 4G, which itself was followed up by Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. This was followed by Monster Hunter World, released worldwide in 2018 on all the systems that it was then, and that was followed up by an expansion called Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Then that was followed up by Monster Hunter Rise, which then had Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. And I know I'm forgetting a bunch of stuff in between there, because there's all of that, the expansion packs and stuff like added like the G-rank monsters and more weapons and more shit to unlock and more challenges and missions and events, because this series is expansive as fuck.
Yeah, and instead of like the newer games where just they are updates and expansions and things like that, it's like there used to be entire new game releases to give you the new content.
Yeah, well, Lucas, do you want me to go through the full timeline? Because I've got the full timeline in front of me now. So we start with Monster Hunter, Monster Hunter G, Monster Hunter Freedom, Monster Hunter 2, Monster Hunter Frontiers Online, Monster Hunter Freedom 2, Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, Monster Hunter Tri, Monster Hunter Diary, Poker Poker Aru Village, Monster Hunter Portable 3D, Monster Hunter Dynamic Hunting, Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, Monster Hunter 4, Monster Hunter Frontier G, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, Monster Hunter Explore, Monster Hunter Generations, Monster Hunter Stories, Monster Hunter Frontier Z, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, Monster Hunter World Iceborne, Monster Hunter Rise, Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin, Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, Monster Hunter Now, and then in 2025, Monster Hunter Wilds. There is a lot of Monster Hunter games!
There's a lot.
And I'm going to say, nobody out there has played all of those. Right?
I'm going to say that there's at least one fucker that has.
You know what? Fair. We're generalising again. Someone out there, of course, has played every single game in this series, but there's so many games there that it's very difficult for anyone to have played all of them. Even the majority of them. But I'd say still playing a handful of them, enjoying them, sinking your teeth into them, and then continuing to interact with the world, the community, and the games themselves makes you a fan. I'm a fan of this series. I love Monster Hunter so much. I am so excited for Monster Hunter Wilds. It will be my number one play game of 2025. Hopefully that has gotten across in this video, because I've been so careful not to insult the fan base, because I love Monster Hunter. There is that tiny subset, the tiniest subset, who get real mad when you don't play the game the right way.
I can feel the entire recording session, the fear coming off Karl.
It's because I just don't want people to think I don't like this game. I love it. And I really hope the fact that I've not played the very first game in the series, or even, of all those games, I think I probably played 5, 6 of them. But the 5, 6 that I played are the quote-unquote definitive versions of the games that they're based on. It's if
you actually think about it, there's Monster Hunter 1 through 4, and then lots of updates to those games, right? And then you get Worlds, Rise, Wilds. And yeah, as someone who isn't a big player of the games, I'm looking forward to at some point when the game's maybe a bit cheaper and got some updates to it, picking up Wilds and trying that out. And it's a game series that I'd really like to get into. Just as I say, I think I'd really enjoy it if I had a couple of friends along the way to help me get in there and really lock in.
And if the same is true of anyone out there listening to this who wishes to similarly dip their toes into the world of Monster Hunter, you can of course go check out our Discord below. I will be playing the game the day it's released, and I probably won't be talking about it much in the Discord, because all I'll be saying is, completed it, mate. And I don't want to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm more than happy to, offer advice or even, carry someone through a quest if they really want to. Because just for me, it's my comfort game. There's nothing more comforting than just going, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go... And the thing as well, when you say Monster Hunter's my comfort game, one of my favourite comfort quests is fight Furious Rajang, because it's such a satisfying fight. And Furious Rajang's like, oh, fight Super Saiyan King Kong. For me, that's relaxing, and it's like, because the first time you fight like a Furious Rajang, it's like, oh my god, this thing's a fucking nightmare. But as soon as you learn its pattern, it's like you ain't got no chance. I'm gonna bully this fucking gorilla.
I know the exact experience because as stressful as they can be, if I find the right group of randoms to play with, doing a Destiny raid can be such a fun and relaxing experience. But then if you find the wrong group of randoms, then it can be one of the most stressful things of all time.
And that's one of the reasons why I absolutely adore playing Monster Hunter on my own. And the only time I'll generally do the multiplayer is after I've completed the entire thing. So after I've got to the end, I've got my end game shit. That's when I'll go start joining other quests. Partly because I don't want to join a quest that I don't know everything that's going to happen. Because it happens, I understand. Sometimes you get carted. Which is like the phrase for you don't die in Monster Hunter, you just get 3 chances to die. But those 3 chances get shared across a team of 4. Which means
No.
Yeah. And if you're good at the game and you know what you're doing, no one's going to die. Right? But
if you've got one person that's just running in without thinking about it, then they can take away all your respawns immediately.
Alternately, if you go in and you don't know the mission or you're not leveled enough, like if you join a high-ranking mission and you're not wearing good enough armor to survive the hits, you can go into... I've had it happen multiple times of going into a hunt and someone goes in and the first time the monster does one big swing of its tail, 2 members of your party die. And then just the other guy leaves and I'm just stuck there like, well, I know that I'm not going to complete this now because those other 2 people are going to die, and it sucks, right?
I remember one time, one of the older Destiny raids is King's Fall raid, and that was from Destiny 1, The Taken King, with Oryx in it. Oryx is named one of my dogs, and I've done that raid so many times that I was like, okay, I'll go onto my alt account because somebody was like, we need a warlock on the team, and I was like, I don't normally main warlock, but okay. Swapped over, blah blah blah. Got to the final boss of the raid and was like, why am I dying so much? What is going on? And I've made it through 2 hours of this raid, not realizing that I hadn't leveled up any of my equipment yet.
Yeah,
it's just super underpowered.
And it's skillful play can mitigate that somewhat, but it's similar to I don't play World of Warcraft, but I'm aware of the fact even if you don't want to be a gatekeepy asshole, you do at the very least have to hey, if you want to play this Spirit Raid, you've got to at least be a certain level. Although the behaviour is similar, I draw a distinction between that and gatekeeping, because gatekeeping is just doing it for arbitrary reasons, whereas saying, hey, you need to be a specific level to take this on, is to ensure that everybody there gets to have fun. Because it's not fun to babysit someone through a mission if that's not what you signed up for.
There's a big difference between just being hey, can everyone make sure that they have decent equipment on and are leveled correctly, than in the Destiny world, one of the most infamous things early on was must-have Galahorn, and it was if you don't have this one specific weapon that was almost impossible to guarantee that you could get, it was just a random drop that was really rare at the time, and it was no one's allowed in the team without this one thing, and it's then you're being the arsehole.
Yeah, something like Monster Hunter, where it's you just need to have completed enough quests to have good enough armor to survive a couple hits. That's all it is, right? And to be honest, I've never actually encountered anyone gatekeepy in Monster Hunter ever in the times I've played online, because I just don't think it's in the community, because the community is so welcoming and so supportive. And as mentioned, maybe it's because I'm going into the online and the multiplayer aspects after I've already gotten to the point of being good enough and confident enough in my abilities to not be dead weight for the team.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's why I've not encountered any of the more arsehole-ish side. But for the most part, yeah, it's been really
generally
welcoming
a lot
for
of
me.
those type of games where the cooperation is the main aspect. You don't find that many people that are generally assholes.
No, because they want more people to play. But again, I know I have a very specific experience because I am aware of the fact that going into a mission under-leveled or under-prepared is going to be frustrating for everybody else because I find it frustrating, so I don't do that.
Yeah, but it's okay, Karl, because what you actually do is you go in solo and then you throw down the SOS beacon and just wait for 3 Japanese names to appear with max level equipment and help you out.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's really fun to do when you are that guy. When you're you are the SOS beacon. It's like, alright, they're calling the fucking SWAT team to take out this Tiger X. When I just go in okay, search for high-ranking Tiger X quest, and I go in, and it's one guy on his own, he's already carted twice. It's like, okay, I just walk up to I want to kick this thing's fucking ass. You just stand back, mate, I've got this. Or ultimately going with a purely supportive build. I love doing that. I love the hammer weapon because it's the weapon where you just have to keep clocking the enemy on the Swede until you knock them out. So,
see, when you said I'm gonna go in with a support build, I thought you meant, Karl's trying out the hunting horn, and you're like, no, I'm gonna dock this thing in the face.
The thing about the hunting horn as well, the hunting horn also, the fighting style is you've got to hit the enemy on the head to knock it out because it's a blunt weapon. And it really does change the dynamic of play when you have someone whose sole purpose in the hunt is knocking the enemy out. Because if you have someone with a hunting horn or a hammer and they're really fucking on the ball and they know what they're doing, the monster doesn't have a chance because it spends 50% of the fight dizzy. At which point everyone else can just wail on it as much as they want. And one of the things I really like about Monster Hunter is because you don't really have chat on a Switch. I've never if you do, I've never used it. A lot of it is unspoken, and one of the best bits is when you just have that unspoken moment where someone puts the monster to sleep. And they'll throw an emote down and everyone just backs up, and then you'll see them walk over and put 15 giant bombs next to the monster's head, and it's yeah. There's those moments of just mental fusion where it's okay, the monster's down, and then everyone just walks up and starts putting bombs down in front of it. And then usually if I'm there with my great sword, you got time it so you get the great sword true slash to hit the monster right on the head and all the bombs at the exact same time. Because when a monster's asleep, it takes double damage from a single hit. And if you can combine hitting all of the bombs, it's just it's great. Love that game.
And thank you to everyone that's watched till the end of the video. We would like to just use this opportunity to give a little shout out to everybody supporting on our highest tier over on our Patreon.
Yes, if you've watched any YouTube video by now, you know what the deal is. You give us money on Patreon, we shout your name out at the end of the video, regardless of how stupid it sounds. And Lucas, what's the first name we have to shout out today?
Well, the first name isn't stupid, Karl. It's quite awesome because it is Be of Awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, behold your new god.
Be of Awesome.
Ahoy, hoy, lowly mortals.
Well, that's not a bad name, Lucas, but I counter it with Dan Daly, all one word. I feel like we're playing Yu-Gi-Oh right now, Lucas.
And I play my Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Draw your last pathetic card so I can end this, Yugi.
Our Patreon has no pathetic supporters, but it does have Dan Daly!
No one's ever been able to call him.
Just mind crush.
And Karl, the next card that I'm going to play has actually requested a clip for you to put in this edit. So
okay.
I guess that's your job now, but they would like to dedicate this to the goal of adding a gaming channel to our repertoire. And that is from the lovely Michael Tatum.
Okay, it's $500, you have no choice of carrier, the battery can't hold a charge, and the reception isn't very—
Shut up and take my money!
And that's the first person so far to request a specific clip, because a joke I like to do with our end of video shoutouts is just put a random clip in from a show or a movie with that person's name superimposed over it. And if people have a funnier clip or a specific clip they'd like us to put with their name superimposed over it, why not, right? I actually like that because I'm running out of like clips to find, so that would be helpful.
Identify this Pokemon.
This is gonna be a breeze for me. It's a Voltorb.
And the answer is a...
Michael Tatum.
Seen from above.
And Karl, I guess another way that people can like support us with their money is to just get us to read out silly names.
Yeah, so in that vein, and last but certainly not least, the final person we like to shout out is Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka. I'm now wondering, Lucas, what is like the longest name you can have on Patreon? Because could somebody change their name to ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah, ting-tang, walla-walla, bing-bang, ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah, ting-tang, walla-walla, bing-bang?
I guess we'll see maybe next month. I don't know.
Because that's the clip I'm putting in for Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka. Woo Won 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 King Day Won Won Willy Wonka. Ooh-ah. That's going in.
Oh my god.
Hey, witch doctor, give us the magic words.
Woo Won 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 King Day Won Won Willy Wonka.
Ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah, ting-tang, walla-walla, bing-bang. Ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah, ting-tang, walla-walla, bang-bang.
Thank you, of course, to everyone for supporting us over on our Patreon, and thank you also just for watching.
Yeah, it's very much appreciated, and we'll see you all next time.